We want to welcome everybody tonight to our neighborhood meeting for Area 5 in the city of Idaho Falls as we go through this Imagine IF project together. For those of you on WebEx, as well as Facebook Live, as well as those in the room with us tonight, we will go back and forth in the conversation. We're glad you're spending some time with us wherever you are. We know that time is really our most valuable non-renewable resource, and we're very grateful and humbled that you would be willing to spend some of your time with us. We do think this is an important conversation, and so we're glad you're here, and we hope to learn a lot from you tonight, as we've done with our other neighborhoods as we've gone through this project. So my name is Brad Kramer. I'm the Director of Community Development Services. We have a number of staff members with us tonight that you'll be introduced to throughout the evening. A couple of them, just so you are aware, if you're on Facebook, we do have a staff member assigned to read out comments that you may be posting in the chat, and also on WebEx, we have somebody that will read those as well, and I'll kind of walk through those instructions here in just a moment. Need to fix one thing on the presentation. Forgot I have to go back on here. Okay, because we know your time is valuable, we've planned for 75 minutes for tonight's discussion. And so we do have an agenda that you see here on the screen. I'm just going to walk through that quickly. I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes introducing the Imagine IF project, talk about challenges of growth, and then we want to get to know your neighborhood right off the bat. Then we have 3 topics we'd like to focus on: healthy communities, housing, transportation, connectivity, and then a wrap up at the end where we're going to explain the next steps in the process and what we plan to do with the information we gather here tonight. I do want to emphasize that tonight, as I mentioned already, is an opportunity for us to learn from you. We don't plan on engaging a lot in dialogue. We want to ask questions and hear your feedback and commentary. So we are really just here to focus on learning what you have to say. I want to talk about some of the ways to participate. I've mentioned them a little bit. First of all, you can speak up verbally and don't be shy. Go ahead, if you're in the room, feel free to chime in on WebEx. Feel free to unmute when you're ready to speak and give us your comments. If you're going to do that, if you'll please use the raise your hand feature so we can recognize you. You can see here on the screen where you can find that. If you just click by your name, you'll see a little hand icon. You can click on that. Or on Facebook. You can also, as I mentioned, leave comments there or in the WebEx chat. And we will make sure that your thoughts are heard as we go throughout this meeting. If you're using WebEx chat, we have this quick instructional slide on how to do that in the lower right-hand side of the screen. You'll see a button that says chat. Make sure that you're sending the chat to everyone. We have a number of folks logged in as Community Development Services. If you choose one of those, we're not sure which person it will go to. It might not be the right one. So please make sure you're sending that to everyone. The most interactive part of our presentation tonight will be through Poll Everywhere. We're going to be asking a lot of questions that you'll be able to enter comments on and then vote on other people's comments as well. So I'm going to walk through how that will work, and then we'll get you logged into that system. We highly encourage you to participate this way. If you're not able to tonight, all of the questions that will be showing on Poll Everywhere will be available tomorrow on our website at imagineif.city. You can answer all of these questions there tomorrow. So when you see the slides that look like this on Poll Everywhere, there's 3 things that you need to know. First is that you can enter a comment here in the top where it says enter a response. You can enter as many as you want. Type in one, hit enter, and then submit another one if you like. The second thing is to look for these icons, the thumbs up and the thumbs down. If you see a comment that you agree with, click a thumbs up. If you see a comment that you disagree with, give it a thumbs down. And we'll kind of see how consensus builds throughout the process. The third thing is those comments that others are posting only show up if you tap the button here in the center. It will either say all caught up or load more comments. If you want to see what other folks are saying, tap on the load more comments, and you can go ahead and vote those up or down. So let's go ahead and get you logged into Poll Everywhere. There's a couple ways to do this. The way we recommend is the web-based version or on a mobile device. If you'll go to pollev.com and then enter Idaho Falls, that will get you to our meeting tonight. You can also text, and you see those instructions on the right. The reason we don't recommend text is there's quite a few questions that you won't be able to answer that way. You can start this way, and then when we get to those, you'll get a message from Poll Everywhere giving you a link to take you to the web version. So go ahead and start in either way, but ultimately we hope that you'll give the web version a shot. That's the easiest way to participate. And we're going to start with an easy question to make sure that you're logged in, and we can try to resolve any technical difficulties as best we can right off the bat. So if you are logged in, you should see a question that says, where do you live? And a map. And as you tap on the area that you live in, we see we've got one answer so far. That will show up immediately on our screen. If you missed the instructions on how to log in, you can see they are at the top of this slide. They will be at the top of all of the slides that have a question on them. So go ahead and get logged in. We'll give this question just a moment to let you get logged in, recognize the tool. If you have questions, please put them in the chat and let us know, and we'll try to get everything resolved. So we have your participation. So it's like areas 2 and 3 have our only participants so far, which we expected. That's where most of the housing is in these areas. And hopefully you'll find this an easy tool to use. We found it's really been useful for folks, especially for those who aren't here in person, to be able to use this tool. It's like a few more of you are getting logged in, which is great. But one of the reasons we're starting with this question is not only because it's an easy way to get you logged in and understand where you live, but it allows us as we go through this process to see how the answers correlate geographically. So we'll be able to sort all of the answers from tonight's questions to each of these 4 areas, which will allow us to see if there's certain parts of town or parts of this neighborhood that maybe think a different way than the other. We are trying to get as specific as we can in understanding how people feel about their neighborhood. So I think we've given this question long enough. We're going to go ahead and move on and just talk a little bit about what Imagine IF is. As you're well aware, Idaho Falls is growing, and it's a great place to live, which is why people are coming here. And you see that growth in the housing construction, in traffic, in the new commercial businesses coming up around town, and in so many ways. And in fact, we can show the data. And you'll see here 2 of the data points that we're looking at. In particular, population growth has been increasing since we became a city, totally normal for cities around the country, and Idaho Falls is no exception. But you also see on the right the graph that shows acres per person. One of the things that we're thinking about as we go through this planning process and discussion is that we're using up more land per person than we have in the past. And that kind of development pattern is what leads to urban sprawl and higher costs of maintaining infrastructure, ultimately higher taxes. So we want to think about how we can use our land differently. We mentioned non-renewable resources of time. Land is also another non-renewable resource. We need to be careful about how we grow. So some of the things we'll talk about tonight are how we can do that. Because we don't expect growth to slow down. People are coming here for a variety of reasons, for everything from the great fiber optics network that allows people to work from home, as COVID has taught us is kind of a new skill that we all need, to the INL and the projects that it's bringing to town with the small modular reactors, to the great access to world-class recreation, some of the most beautiful places on earth. Now, on top of all that, we're constantly making these lists nationwide, best small cities to start a business. Number 13 for job growth, best small cities to move to, top 100 places to live, and most recently named the best performing small city in America by the Milken Institute. For all of these reasons, Idaho Falls has been discovered and people are coming here. Now, when we talk about that concept of growth, I think this Facebook comment that was one of our news announcements probably represents what a lot of folks are thinking. Stop it, stop the growth. Idaho Falls has been a great small town community, and people don't want to see that change. We understand that, and we wish we could stop growth sometimes. But we can, while we can't stop it, we can certainly manage it and make sure that the things that we think are important are protected. And with that in mind, let's go to our next question. So this is an open-ended question, but one of those ones that you can vote on. Excuse me. We want to learn, what do you love about your neighborhood? Why do you live where you live? So go ahead on Poll Everywhere and start giving us some responses. What makes your neighborhood a great place And again, if you haven't, it should pop up automatically. And a good question. So for those online that weren't able to hear that, if the questions will pop up automatically and pull everywhere for you. So we're seeing a couple of comments here. Great schools, street trees. If you're having trouble with pull everywhere, again, please feel free to just vocalize your comment and we will type it in for you. Put it in the comments or the chats. We'll type it in for you. Are we seeing anything on the chats right now? Facebook, WebEx? Okay. Yeah, so let's just give this question some time. Quiet neighbors. Yeah, close to school and work, restaurants, happy homes, beautiful view. We're seeing, yeah, you can see how the voting started to work. A lot of people like the street trees, quiet, their neighbors, which is great. It's great to know that that social capital is a powerful thing in your neighborhood, that you see the value in having good neighbors that you connect with. So this is, yeah, a little bit of a unique area of the city with that county area and the county feel, a low crime. Great answers. I'm going to let this go for just another moment here. In particular, so for those on WebEx, those in the room, we've learned there's about a 30-second delay on Facebook Live. And so if we leave this up for just a little longer than sometimes feels comfortable, they get a chance to answer as well. So again, yeah, lots of votes for the street trees, the quiet, proximity to work and restaurants, lots of open space, parks.
Facebook comment says, close to work and quiet.
Okay, close to work and quiet. All right, so thank you for the Facebook comment. Okay, so now, thank you for telling us why you love your neighborhood. What we also want to know is, when we think about growth, what are you concerned will change about your neighborhood? So this question should now be live on Pull Everywhere. What concerns you as you see Idaho Falls changing? Those things that you love, do you feel like any of them are at risk? If so, what are they? Attitudes of neighbors. Right, yeah, so those bigger city problems, the increased traffic, longer commutes. Absolutely.
There's a comment to the title question saying, everything you have listed, Jen Lee Edition is a wonderful place to live, so close to everything.
Okay.
Smiley face.
Great. No, thank you. Too many homes being built. That's an interesting split because a lot of our folks have felt like we're not building enough and others have felt like we're building too many. So it's interesting to see both. WebEx, we have a comment?
We have a comment from Stephen Marks that says street racers on 17th.
Okay, street racers on 17th and Sunnyside. And homes. And homes, okay, thank you. So street racers, okay. Values, property taxes. Yeah, so a lot of votes on the traffic, congestion, less friendly, attitudes of neighbors, getting a lot of votes. So I think just as you're commenting, this is an interesting thing that we've seen, we'll get to Facebook in 1 second, is that the neighborhoods have, around town have talked about how much they love the neighbors and they don't want to see those changes and see those relationships change. So it's good to see that.
Caroline says, I fear that more homes will become rentals and people who don't treat their homes as if they own them.
Yeah, very common concern. Thank you about the more rentals and less maintenance. Anything that you'd like to vocalize or you're kind of using Pull Everywhere? Okay, great. Feel free to chime in if you feel so inclined. Great. Thank you for these answers. I'm going to move on to the next question. This should stay live if you want to keep entering answers as we go along. But let's just talk real quick about healthy communities. This is one of the things that is new to the way we were thinking about planning. Because I want to start with this question, and you don't have to answer, obviously, but what is the biggest predictor of life expectancy right now in the United States? It may not be what you think. It's your zip code. And when I first saw that answer, and as I continue to see that answer, I have to ask myself, why? Why is your life expectancy different, one zip code to another? And more, it's this recognition that how we grow, how we develop, how we utilize our land matters in more than just the physical aspects of health. When we talk about healthy communities, we're not just thinking about the physical, which is what I think we all sort of gravitate to, but also those other dimensions of health and wellness, the social, spiritual, emotional, economic, occupational, intellectual, environmental. We can design and build places that encourage physical activity for sure, more walking and biking and parks to go and play. Or we can design communities that are focused on the automobile, don't provide those open spaces. We can design places that encourage people to get out and connect with each other, or we can design places that encourage people to go home, shut the door, and never have human contact again. We can make sure that people have access to the services they need, or we can sprawl and make sure that they're far away. All of these things contribute in some way or another to those 7 dimensions of health. So with that being said, and before I move on, any comments? Okay, we have one.
To the previous slide, it was Stephen Marks again commented wanting to change Idaho Falls to be like the community.
Okay. Okay, right. Yeah, so from the outsiders maybe coming in and making it like their community. Thinking about these 7 dimensions of health and wellness, our next question is, how healthy do you think your neighborhood is right now? If you were to rank it, how healthy is your neighborhood? There's some positive so far. Just feel free to tap on whichever emotion you feel is most representative. Okay, so it's a more neutral to a little bit negative there. It's like generally positive so far. We'll give this just a moment. But do you feel like your neighborhood provides that opportunity for physical and social and emotional health, all the 7 dimensions of health and wellness? Yeah, this is interesting. So more on the positive side for sure, but definitely looks like folks feel like there's some room for improvement. Oh, we have a perfect score right there on that green face. That's great. Nobody is in the ultimate red. Comment on WebEx.
Very healthy.
Very healthy. Great.
Comment on Facebook, smiley face.
Smiley face. Okay. So we feel like we have a healthy community. That's great. One of the things that we did in background for this particular plan and discussion is we did a healthy communities assessment, a consultant out of Boise who looks at 60 data points that relate to all of those 7 dimensions and determines where in our city we have the biggest concerns for health risks. Now you can see the area that we're talking about tonight outlined in red, and that for the most part, this is a very healthy area, all tier 4. Which is good for your neighborhood. It means that for all of the indicators that he looks at, there were no major red flags. You can see that there are certainly parts of the city that do have some of those high risk indicators. So even though your neighborhood is very healthy and most of you felt pretty positive about it, we want to know what are some things you think could be done to improve your neighborhood's health. We recognize the city is not perfect, neighborhoods are not perfect. So what are your ideas on how to improve your neighborhood's health? Ideas that you may have. Some of the things you've said certainly spill over into this question. More pathways. Yeah, utilizing those canals, something we're definitely trying to do in the city. Less traffic, some additional higher density housing to diversify that neighborhood. Okay. Exercise parks. That's an interesting concept we haven't seen come up yet. Thank you for that. Anything on Facebook or WebEx yet? Thoughtful higher density dog park. Yeah.
Better sidewalks.
Better sidewalks. Okay. Yeah, getting some votes on some of these things. And Annis, would you mind sliding down on that PowerPoint slide? We can get a look at what's happening. Yeah. More police patrol. Okay, great.
Facebook says sidewalks along homes, interact with your neighborhoods and get to know them.
Okay. Yeah, I appreciate both of those comments. So sidewalks on homes, especially as a high-speed road that I'm sure people use to get to the schools that are in that area. Make sure that those are safe, absolutely. More county interest in areas, okay. So I am curious, as you're entering answers, I do want to ask if whoever entered the Moore County interest is willing to maybe explain to us what that means to you. I can read that a couple of different ways. If you're not willing, that's okay too. What kind of interest are we talking about? Go ahead.
People add exercise stations around the park.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so kind of getting that exercise park, exercise station concept, really interesting. Appreciate that. Okay, appreciate all of the input, the ideas. This question should stay live as I move to the next slide, so feel free to keep it. But what we're going to do now is move to talk about our next topic, which is housing, which relates directly to health. One of the folks that we work with really describes housing as health, that if you can't find affordable, livable housing, everything else is so much more difficult in your life. So Annis, one of our planners here, is going to walk through a quick conversation about housing in your neighborhood.
Good evening. My name is Anas Al-Masrahi, and I'm a planner at the Community Development Services Office, and I will be your guide as we continue to imagine if with housing. Healthy communities, as Brad mentioned, have a direct tie with housing. Housing affordability and livability have impacts on our health in a variety of ways. Housing is also one of the most pressing issues facing the city of Idaho Falls as population continue to increase. Home prices and the cost of construction are rising quickly in Idaho Falls. We see this when we compare past projections to the current reality. In 2017, the median home value was projected at $164,000. Real estate websites are showing that the current median price to be more than $250,000. Also, our office continually hears from real estate professionals and those who are working and those who are looking to purchase homes in the area that there is a very limited supply compared to the demand and the rising demand. Now, we would like to hear from you. What would you think about your neighborhood? So when we move to question number 6 here, we know this can be sometimes difficult to assess if you haven't recently tried to purchase a home or secure a rental property. With this question here, is your neighborhood an affordable place to live? So far, we see answers, the majority is no. We start to see some of the yeses here. Go ahead.
No, from Stephen Marks on chat.
The Webix comment says no. We are still seeing that the majority are no sayers.
When many of the homes in the neighborhood are 750 to $1 million, it is not affordable.
Comment in the room says it is not affordable place. Then let's move to the next question here. Thinking about the overall condition of housing, state of repair, desirability, how do you feel about the livability of housing in your neighborhood? You think it is livable in terms of housing? Start to see a few more comments in the green.
So we did have a Facebook question asking to define affordable. Prices have skyrocketed. And I would, do you mind if I answer how we?
Go ahead, Brett.
How we would typically define affordable is if a person is having to spend more than 30% of their take-home pay on housing costs. That's defined as cost burden. So more than 30% of their take-home pay.
Thank you, Brent. And from this question, Facebook, WebEx comment?
Just a selection of number 5 again, and smiley face.
Oh, okay. So from this question, we see a majority of answers heading towards the green faces. Green, light green.
We do have a couple of folks saying green smiley faces on Facebook.
Okay. Moving to the next question. As the city grows, what concerns do you have about housing in your neighborhood? You can populate your answers. Also, you can vote up or down some of the answers that you see on the polling board. See, not enough, only for the elite, overcrowded schools, lack of diversity and available options, too similar, and those are great comments. Property taxes increasing because of home values, high taxes. Not enough, mix of types. Younger generation not having the opportunity to buy a home. We'll give it another 30 seconds here to hear more answers about your concerns about housing in your next. Not enough types. Concerns about where next generation would live. Those are great comments. Once again, you can answer the question here while we move along.
We've got two Facebook comments. Not enough available for current residents and overcrowding in schools.
All right. Those are pressing issues, yes. We see property tax. Top list. All right, moving to the next question, question 9. What ideas do you have for improving housing in your neighborhood? Now, you've been living in the area for some time. What would you like to communicate to us? How would you improve housing in your neighborhood? Greater mixture, diversity, and variety, more options, higher density. Do you have any comments or questions from WebEx or Facebook so far? Decrease housing density. Allow accessory dwellings. See, diversity is coming again and again and great mixture. Allow for higher density townhomes and twin homes, or even some high rises, 3 stories, condos, units. Diversity and variety, we see that multiple times. Once again, those are great comments. Thank you so much for your collaboration. Brad, can you help me just scroll down one more time? Maintain the country feel. No idea about, worry about government trying to create something, low income type scenarios. All right. Get high school and surrounded high density, improved roads, infrastructure. Sure. Moving to, to the next slide. One solution for housing affordability and availability talked about in the existing plan for the city written in 2013. Residential development should reflect the economic, social diversity of Idaho Falls. New and existing development should foster inclusiveness and connectivity through mixed housing types and sizes and neighborhood connection through paths, parks, open spaces, and streets. Question number 10 here. How well do you think your neighborhood reflects this policy or this policy goal?
So I did have one comment come in right as you were switching slides, that low density and the space of the neighborhoods is one of the big words of living here. And we just did get a smiley face for this question.
Oh, okay. Heard one smiley face, the slides. I don't see any that populates yet.
It's not showing. Okay. It's not showing up.
It's not showing up here. I voted, but it's not there. Because my response is recorded.
It is recorded. However, for some technical reason, we don't see this in our screen. I would encourage people on WebEx and Facebook to communicate what option they have selected. Let's see it from the gentleman here, what option you've selected.
Red frown.
Okay. Red frown, yes.
Yeah, so I'm in the back end. So for those who are not seeing their answers show up here, it is showing up in the back end.
Oh,
of the system. So
And Brad, can you tell me more about that slide? Do we
Yeah.
have a majority?
pull that up.
That's how people are voting.
Every vote is from the second green face all the way down to the red one. It's a fairly even mix.
Okay, and then I have a comment on WebEx.
Yes, Bronx.
Moving to next slide here. Imagine if the city allowed for more housing choice. Since the 1940s, cities and developers have had zoning, construction, finance, and other systems set up to effectively deliver single-family homes. Single-family homes make up approximately 91% of the housing stock in Idaho Falls. Apartment buildings are also a fairly straightforward construction time. This has left a gap of missing middle housing types and price points that we do not see developed regularly. With rising housing costs and changing lifestyles, more individuals are looking for housing options that fit their needs. Question, so here from the slide that you see here, while I'm pointing on the screen, you see majority of what you see mid-rise and single-family homes. And here in Idaho Falls, we are experiencing this missing middle housing. Like we are, from our experience, we are seeing less of this. And this is what missing middle housing means. The options that you see here in the colored image, all of those types are within missing middle housing. Question number 11 here says, how do you feel about increasing housing choices in your neighborhood? We would like to hear from you, and how do you feel about more choices when it comes to housing in your neighborhood? Do I have any comments from Facebook or WebEx?
Nothing on Facebook.
Just so I'm clear, Does this question mean we are welcoming more housing choices in our neighborhood?
How do you feel about it?
Would we welcome that?
Yeah.
Yes.
How do we feel? Yes, yes, okay. Thank you. I had to change my answer.
One more time, for the people who are not with us here tonight, you can use the poll everywhere for the entire duration, throughout the next 7 days. You have a week ahead, to, also fill out the survey here. And from people responses, I see, people are voting just across majority of the options that we have here, and they have a comment. WebEx, go ahead.
Chris Lee's comment is this can, excuse me. I don't have a name. We already have some mixed housing and I like it. And then Chris Lee says this can be thoughtfully done in a beneficial way to all, including those worried about property taxes.
Sure, this is a great comment. In the next few slides, we would welcome more of your comments regarding this, and you can tell us more of what you mean. Transitioning to the next slides here, and I'm going to take a minute to explain to you or to show you some of the examples of the housing types and sizes that we are referring to and will refer to in the next few questions. So from some of those photos here, we see two photos that represent twin homes, a duplex, accessory dwellings house, and then there's an accessory dwelling in the back, a bungalow court, four attached townhouse, courtyard apartment, 8 attached townhouse and condos. One good thing about this slide that all the pictures that you see here on this slides were taken from our community here in Idaho Falls. You might be familiar to a few of them. And before I move on, people aren't always as familiar with missing middle housing types because we don't see them developed as regularly. These are all existing Idaho Falls examples. Historically, these housing types were allowed in most neighborhoods, allowing for mixed housing types, price points within the same neighborhood. Now, we are going to do a series of rapid fire questions about various housing types and where they should be located in your neighborhood. Check all that apply. We will post each question for about 10 to 20 seconds. At the end, we will have time for some additional discussion. Before I move on, do I have any comments from Facebook or WebEx? All right. So our first question here, it seems that people are populating those answers. Where in your neighborhood does a twin home make sense? And again, make sure to select all that you think that applies. So I see the majority going with the E option. A twin home doesn't make sense in my neighborhood. Second after that choice, we see a mix of choice A, C, and D. And I have a comment from WebEx.
Another E selection.
Another E. We have staff entering those comments. If you are experiencing any challenges entering your answers, please voice your answers or opinions, and we have staff that are monitoring the chat and will enter your answers as well.
Another vote for E on Facebook.
Another vote for E on Facebook. Moving to the next question. Where in your neighborhood does a duplex make sense? From the slide that I see here, I don't see answers yet, but definitely answers are recorded and
Bulk of answers are D.
okay.
Thank you. For some reason,
This question didn't activate, so I'm gonna activate it now.
Please.
So you see it on your tablet now?
I did before, but I can see the voting. too.
Right, and you're saying majority of
The
answers,
majority are needed.
I have a nay vote.
an A vote from WebEx. Awesome, thank you, Brent. And yeah. Great, thank you for your answers. Transitioning to the next question. Where in your neighborhood do accessory dwellings make sense? A is leading anywhere. He is taking the lead now that accessory dwellings do not make sense in the neighborhood. And that we have a mixed vote between choice B, C, and D.
I would say on Facebook, we've got on each of these a vote for E.
Okay,
I also have a vote for E and I have a comment as well. Chris Lee says this includes granny pads in your backyard for your aging parents.
okay. Thank you for your comments and thank you for voting here. Transitioning to the next question, question number 15. Where in your neighborhood do townhomes make sense? So where in your neighborhood does a townhome make sense? The option is still taking the lead for this question as well. Also, second to that, we see B option, near and along major streets. And before I move to the next question, do I have a comment from WebEx?
Just a vote for D.
A vote for D. In terms of neighborhoods. Great. Transitioning to, and we still see those answers and feel free to continue and select all that apply. Transitioning to the next question. Question number 16, where in your neighborhood does a bungalow court make most sense? Picture that you see here, this is a picture of a bungalow court from Idaho Falls right here. And we are asking you to answer this question, where does a bungalow court make most sense in your neighborhood?
On Facebook for B.
A vote for B from Facebook. Awesome. And again, we see that option E is taking the lead for this slide, that the bungalow court does not make sense in my neighborhood. Transitioning to the next question, question 17, where in your neighborhood does a courtyard apartment make sense?
Vote for E.
A vote from Facebook on E,
Vote from E for E chat.
vote for E on WebEx. All right. Transitioning to the next question, where in your neighborhood does a mid-rise condo or apartment make sense? And please check all that apply. The leading vote here that a mid-rise condos, a mid-rise condo or apartment does not make sense in my neighborhood, that's option E. And before I transition to my next question here, do I have any comments from Facebook or WebEx?
I have a vote for B.
A vote for B from Facebook,
E.
another vote for E from WebEx. All right, transitioning to question 19. Here you can populate your answers. What concerns you the most with allowing more housing choice in your neighborhood? So with this question is and also as I'm wrapping up my part when it comes to housing, I'd like to thank you for your responses on where different housing types should be located in your neighborhood. Staff will continue to analyze this data closely as it will help us to inform future housing decisions as we imagine it. And when I say we, all of us, we imagine the future of Idaho Falls. Now we are ready for that deeper discussion. What concerns you the most with allowing more housing choices in your neighborhood? And from the answers that we have received so far, from the top, elite will be offended, aesthetics, how nicely housing is maintained, nothing, and they have a comment. WebEx,
Low income and crime.
low income and crime,
I go same comment on Facebook.
same comment. Facebook, low income and crime. Traffic. Minority said, not in my neighborhood. Have no concern. The early answer asked for diversity of answers, but the voting indicated that the majority of people don't. Okay. And keep in mind, with this question here, you can vote. I see a growing list of answers. Please take another moment to vote answers up and down.
So the Facebook comment, crime and mischief.
Okay, Facebook crime, Facebook comment, Prime Minister. We need it, done right, everyone will benefit. Brad, can you help me scroll down just for one more time? Privacy. Home values. Nothing. All right, with that, we'll move to question 20 here. Are there any types that you marked as inappropriate for your neighborhood that could be appropriate with specific design regulations? One more time here, you can vote or check all that apply. And so far, do I have any comments from WebEx or Facebook? The leading answer is aye. None of the above. And we have a healthy mixture of other answers between one letter A to letter H.
We did get a vote for aye.
Facebook vote for aye. And with that, I thank you for your responses. You have been a great audience. Now, my colleague Brian will help us imagine it with connectivity and transportation.
All right, so we're running a little behind. I'm speaking to that microphone, correct? Okay. So we're hoping you'll hang on with us as we work through this. So I'm going to be speaking on connectivity and transportation. And good evening, I'm Brian Stevens, and I will be your guide as we continue to imagine IF with connectivity. Oh, has that been hanging out on the top of that the entire time?
Not on the live stream.
Okay. All right. We have covered a lot already. We have one more topic to discuss that we know affects our neighborhood every day. We would like to talk about how we get around and how your neighborhood is connected. We will start with a simple pull everywhere word cloud and then advance into several questions to gather your opinions for the future of Imagine IF. So where do you go most often? And these are best if they're single word answers or short 2-word. And then please keep it focused to the region and primarily the city. We understand that you routinely want to exit and return to the city conveniently. I'm going to allow a minute here. I don't know if you had anything that you would like to voice here in the room or if we have anybody on the chats.
Comment about Lindsay Boulevard.
Okay. And what on Lindsay Boulevard, maybe they could expand on that. Specifically, what on Lindsay Boulevard do they go to?
I have a Facebook comment for store.
Okay,
Lindsay Boulevard work.
okay. All right, so we're seeing work as the primary thing, grocery and stores taking a higher precedence as the word cloud builds. So this word cloud is going to go away, but if you have other things that you would like to add, again, the survey will be available in the morning. I'm going to move on here. So rank your most common mode of transportation. And we're very interested to know how you get there. Please let us know what modes of travel you use. This one I did.
We're having some trouble with there we go. I'm not gonna show you.
Have that problem.
It's a new one.
So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on here. Do we have any comments from the chat?
Just a car.
Yeah, a personal car.
Do you have anything from that you'd like to voice or?
How do you go on this to designate other?
If you were to put into your WebEx comments or into the into Facebook.
I'm just on hold, so I use an electric golf cart sometimes.
Okay, so we can certainly add that. Caitlin can make note of that. Or now it'll be documented in the video. We're gonna move on here. Pedestrians and bicyclists are indicator species of healthy communities. And thinking back to our discussion about healthy communities, most communities in the United States, excuse me, spend the vast majority of their money on roads for the automobile. We need to keep in mind there are other important modes of transportation that are representative of how healthy our community is. Connectivity is the key to success moving within our city. And imagine the ability to get from place to place on foot or by alternate modes other than the auto. Connectivity is really two parts: places to go and facilities to get you there. See that flash there. If it were more convenient to get you to your common destination by bike or foot, would you use those methods more often? We're very interested again to know what other modes you may find usable in our community. What do you imagine for IF in the future? So when we are seeing that yes is the top there in the survey, in the poll, any comments as far as alternate modes?
Yes.
Okay. Anything you would like to add? All right, I'm gonna move on to the next slide, and I'm going a little faster than I normally would, but to try and keep you guys, be as efficient as we can with your time, I'm gonna move on.
We did have a vote for A on Facebook as well.
Okay, a vote for A. All right. How would you rate your neighborhood's current level of overall connectivity to daily goods and service? How accessible are eating establishments, retail, work, and exercise? Okay, and it looks like as of right now, we're on the lower end of the spectrum there. We're starting to even out. Fifth being red or green.
Green.
Okay,
I have a green one on here too.
okay. Right, looks like we're moving towards the green. I'm gonna advance onto the next slide. How would you rate your neighborhood's current level of bike and pedestrian connectivity to daily goods and services? Please take a moment to answer and consider what you imagine to improve our city's connectivity. Have anything you would like to add, or?
Just need sidewalks on homes,
That would be nice,
south of Sunset.
certainly. That's,
Big smiley face on Facebook for this.
it's okay. And it does look like we're on the lower end of the spectrum here,
2, 6.
okay?
Then I got a comment, better bike trails would be great.
More bike trails would certainly improve our city,
I have another yellow vote and a comment about bike lanes.
okay? We're certainly on the lower, in this area, it appears that we're on the lower level of the spectrum. I'm gonna move on here. Go ahead.
Just a comment that these questions are very weather dependent.
That's a great comment. That's a great comment. And we do have the winter, a good part of the year. And we certainly, it's certainly difficult to walk and bike during the bad weather. So what are your ideas for improving connectivity in your neighborhood? Hopefully we have helped you imagine IF and ask you to now provide your ideas. So, and I'm going to give this a little bit of time to see how this populate. So sidewalks on homes south of Sunnyside. That's a consistent theme. And we're hopeful that all the properties down that will eventually come into the city and we'll be able to make those improvements.
And I comment in the chat. I think it may be referring to the previous question, but it says can walk in the winter if the paths are maintained.
Okay. Right, we're starting to see some items created here, walking paths along canals, utilize the canals straight to school, existing pathways, future paths, repair sidewalks, more paths and signage for bikes and pedestrians. No communication between county and city. Looks like our top one is utilize the canals. Forcing homeowners to maintain their sidewalks. Need a way for cars to travel from Ammon to I-15 in an efficient way without bogging down the streets. Okay, so it looks like the forcing sidewalks has been thumbed down, and utilization of the canal straight to school, existing pathways, future paths, really our top one. Brad?
Facebook, more safe bike lanes.
Okay, more safe bike lanes. Our staff will be entering those. This is a question that they can assist with and enter those in, so it can be voted up and down. I think we've got a really good set of comments here. I'm going to move on to the next question. Naisha actually has a comment from WebEx.
A bike path to downtown crossing 17th on a bike is scary. Going north to Rome at Sunnyside.
Okay. Yeah. Tried to do that. It is scary. So we're gonna move on to the next slide. I appreciate everybody's comments. And again, this survey will be available in the morning if you didn't get everything entered. So the next section that we're going to deal with is the walkable center. And one concept that we will refer to regularly as we go through the rest of the topic and discussion is the walkable center. Walkable centers are well connected to the surrounding area, accessible by multiple modes of transportation. They're the places where communities do things together, everything from working, shopping, learning, playing, and celebrating. Their key elements are that they include a mixed use center. They are pedestrian oriented, offer multimodal access, and provide house scale transition to adjacent neighborhoods. And we have a few. So if we look at one, that's a mixed use center. We have pedestrian oriented, and then again, multimodal access and house scale tradition to adjacent neighborhoods, transitioning to adjacent neighborhoods. So just trying to give everybody a clear definition of what this is, because the questions following this are going to ask you about these walkable centers. And from the previous meetings, we've had a little bit of confusion as far as exactly what this is. So again, one more definition: walkable centers defined. Missing middle housing study by Opticos, right? And this is a snip from a study that the city recently had performed. And you can read along with me. Neighborhood mini commercial employment areas closely integrated with the residential components of the neighborhood, pedestrian and bicycle friendly, a place you can get to quickly for daily needs. Most things within a 5 to 10 minute walk from home and work, streets designed to enable and encourage walking, access to public transit, and incremental change. So hopefully between those two slides, I've given you a fairly decent basis for the questions that are to follow.
There's a question in the comments in the chat that's multi-mode center question mark.
Okay, so multimodal means that you can get there via an automobile, as a pedestrian, or on a bicycle, you know, or any other mode of transportation, you know, such as a golf cart or something that you were to use to get there, that it's going to be convenient to get to, and you're going to be able to do it quickly on any of those modes of transportation. So again, what are your thoughts and reactions to the idea of walkable center in your neighborhood? And we would love to hear what you imagine. I am from this area, and so I am familiar with some, and so I would love to hear what you think. Naisha?
Two comments on chat. One is I like to run or walk through community park. Very nice, thank you. I see the other comment just popped up in the survey that's yes, let's have lots of walkable centers.
Okay. So, and we're going to get into where you think they should be in the future. So we like these comments. Very good idea. Have lived near this in the past elsewhere and loved it. Our neighborhood is already fairly walkable. However, it's all housing. I don't know where it would fit in our neighborhood. Current road conditions do not allow walkable centers in our neighborhood. So I think right now we're gathering your information here, and the plan is to come back to the neighborhoods in the next few months and to have more of an idea and to try and discuss some of these as far as what we've accumulated from the information from these questions. So neutral, our neighborhood is already, let's see, very good idea, have lived near this in the past elsewhere, loved it. So number 4, no walkable centers, would have bought housing closer to town if I wanted to walk. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna move on to the next question. It looks like the top one there is, we don't want any walkable centers near our neighborhoods. Does your neighborhood have a walkable center? I'm not gonna spend a bunch of time on this one. I'm not sure this one's active, Brad. Okay. Again, I live in this neighborhood and I would agree, it's not really a lot of options to walk and get something for our needs.
There's a Facebook comment, are walking centers maintained during the winter?
So a walkable center would be maintained if we had them. You know, they would be an area where you could work. Or that you possibly could go and get any of the daily needs, you know, milk, bread, toothpaste, toothbrush. Some of those things that you might want. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. If you said no to the previous slide, where do you imagine a walkable center should go in your neighborhood? Okay, major intersections, that's a great location for them. Nowhere. Sunnyside and Rolling Deck. It's a good spot. Around schools. That would certainly be convenient for our children. Can't imagine where it would go. It seems to fit better along river or downtown. You know, it looks like our neighborhood particularly doesn't want to be walkable or have a walkable center. Somewhere on South 5th West. All right, and again, this question will be available tomorrow morning if you weren't able to add or thumb up or thumb down all of the comments you would like. So I'm going to move on to the next one. So if you said yes, in a few words, describe where your neighborhood's walkable center is. Now, from the previous question, nobody said yes. So I'm going to advance beyond this one unless I see anything populate here quickly, but I don't expect to see anything here. Nobody did say that there was a walkable center. So I'm going to turn the time back over to Brad to wrap it up. And I thank you for your time.
Again, thank you to everybody that's participated. We've asked these questions to all 5 geographic neighborhoods in the city, same questions, same order, and the answers have varied in some respects, and in others they've been quite similar. And so it's very interesting to us to see how each neighborhood responds. What I want to do is just take a couple of minutes and explain what we plan to do from here. And so you know what we're doing with all this information. But before I do that, I want to ask one final poll everywhere question, which is, what did we not cover tonight? Or what did we not cover enough? Were there topics that you felt like we missed, we didn't dedicate enough time to, or any other thoughts that you want to give us on what we covered tonight. Schools, yeah, we did not, you're right, we didn't spend a lot of time on schools, transport, traffic. Zoning, if we had some land that wanted some higher density, how do we go about doing that? Speeding. Definitely public transportation. Yeah, we've heard that one a lot. Definitely a citywide topic of conversation for sure. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Explain the downside of urban sprawl, okay, how it negatively affects our agricultural and rural city. Okay. Right.
It's another transportation.
Public transportation, okay, so another vote for that one. Okay. Give this one just another moment, but it is important to us to know what's on your minds that we're missing. So I do appreciate all of these comments. Police patrol, yeah, we really haven't talked much about public safety, how that relates in our planning.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec, okay, Jill? So interesting, yeah, some top votes for the explanation of the downside of sprawl. WebEx have some comments?
Yeah, financial, how will this be funded?
Okay, yeah, great. Okay, I'll give this just another couple of seconds. And again, I appreciate all the input. No wrong answers here. Just like to know what we need to focus on. It does look like public transportation, traffic related issues, pedestrian over and underpasses. Yeah, interesting. So some of that solution oriented conversation we've been focused on. Financial is a big issue. How do we do that? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on as we're kind of running short on time, and we do want to be respectful to those of you who expected 75 minutes. So what we do from here is, this is our last neighborhood meeting for this phase, and we're also finishing up some focus groups and a citywide survey, which is really our education phase for ourselves, is learning what's on the minds of our citizens, what the priorities are, and sorting through what the themes that we are seeing pop up both citywide and in each neighborhood. So between now and June, our staff will be spending time digesting all of that information and drafting possible plans, policies, projects that could be a part of the city's future plans. And we'll bring those back to you as neighborhoods in July or August. That's our goal, is to have a phase 2 of these public discussions where we will take the possibilities, the things that we heard from you, make sure that we got it right. Or if we got it wrong, let us know so we can tweak it, ask you what kinds of projects are the highest priority for you, and understand whether or not we still need to make some changes. So you can expect to hear from us again, to invite you to a meeting similar to this. Hopefully we can be with you though, that COVID will be settled down enough we can be with you in person in the late summer, July and August, if we can stay on schedule. And in between now and then, we might invite you to do a couple of things. First of all, as has been mentioned a number of times, if you needed more time to think through these questions that we asked, or if you want to share them with friends and neighbors who weren't able to be here, please direct them to imagineif.city. You'll find a link to these same questions posted on area 5. You can click and just answer all these questions. And please take some time to do that. We also have a citywide survey that's open for 1 more week, and that is really focused on more citywide issues. You can find that also at imagineif.city. So we'd encourage you to log in and answer those questions. It takes about 10 minutes to answer those. And then we also have an opportunity for you to leave videos and photos of your Idaho Falls memories. We've tried to focus on understanding what people love about Idaho Falls. There's a link again on imagineif.city where you can take, there's a few different prompts. You can click on each one of those prompts and leave a video for that topic if you'd like to. Certainly welcome those. And then finally, if you want to keep up to date on this project, there's a couple of things I'd ask you to do. Continue to visit the website for sure, imagineif.city, but then make sure that you leave us your contact information so that we can email you invitations, drafts of projects and plans for your area so that you can stay informed. So if you're on WebEx, please feel free to put your email in the chat. Facebook, you may not want to do that. It's a little bit more public, but you can also email us at imagineif at idahofalls.idaho.gov. You can see that at the top of the screen. Send us your email. Make sure that we know that you want to be involved. Because we want to make sure that everyone that wants to be a part of this conversation is invited to the table. So again, I thank you for your time and for all of your input. It's been great comments, very helpful for us to understand how you feel about your neighborhood, what you think the priorities are. And we look forward to engaging with you as we move forward with this project. Thank you.